Request to the Brooklyn Posse. Hello and welcome to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitz, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Cinthanie McAllister from Cinthanie.com. What's up, girl?
Hey, girl. Hey.
So today we're all smiles and laughter all the time, but today is our lifestyle talk, right? Mm-hmm. Because the second Monday of every month, even though October is the exception to the rule, but like our last episode we talked about, the second Monday of every month, we are going to have a lifestyle. And today's lifestyle topic that we're talking about is grief. And we picked grief because you're currently going through grief on your own.
I think we had actually picked this topic before I was experiencing what I'm currently experiencing.
Oh, you're right.
We had picked it a couple weeks ago. And so it's just weird how the universe works because we're talking about it today and it's something very present in my life right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But clearly it's a message that needs to be talked about.
100%. 100%. But before we get into that topic, I want to acknowledge our review of the week because those people that go to iTunes and actually leave a review, we appreciate you guys so much because you guys make us more searchable so that when people are looking for the knowledge that gives them the potential power that we have in these episodes, they find us easier. So who's our review of the week from this week?
All right. So this review of the week is a 5-star review. It is anonymous, but it says knowledge is potential power. This podcast is a must listen for everyone who wants to change not only their health, but their life. Lauren is an MD and gives practical, tough love advice, and it is clear that she is passionate and genuinely cares about the listeners. Her co-host, Cinthanie, adds a great balance, humor, and clarity to the podcast. As Lauren says many times in the podcast, knowledge is potential power, and this could not be more true. If you apply the advice these ladies give you like I have, you will be leading a very different life in just a few short months. So do yourself a favor and listen.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, anonymous, whoever you were.
It's our podcast in a nutshell. So
yeah, for sure. For sure. And, she said your life can be changed in a few months. I believe that it can be changed literally right away because truly just starting to change your mindset can change everything. But I've definitely seen a ton of people change their health and overall being very quickly because of our podcast. And it's just, I'm super grateful to have this platform to be able to share this knowledge, this potential power. And we actually have t-shirts and sweatshirts and tanks that say knowledge is potential power, Fitz and Healthy podcast. And they will be available on laurenfitz.com shortly. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, it will be up and ready to be on sale. So anyway, so our topic today is grief. And to the listener, you know that your two hosts are females. So there's probably going to be some tears at some point because I know what Cynthanie's going to talk about. I know what I'm going to talk about. So I'm just warning you. So if you're not in that state of mind, I apologize, but this is an important topic that every single person can relate with, right?
Yeah. And it won't be all boohoo.
No.
Like, please know that we've got a message and it will be uplifting. So
absolutely.
We're not here to bring you down, but to lift you up. But this is something that needs to be talked about. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So do we want to start by you telling your story?
Yeah.
Let's start there. Let's start there.
And everybody, the thing that's not comforting, but is interesting to think about is the fact that at some point, everybody is going to experience what I'm experiencing right now.
Absolutely.
Or they have experienced it, or they're maybe going through it too with me right now, or they will eventually. So about 2 weeks ago, so my grandmother was a huge part of my life. She was like, I was always at her house as a kid. She threw the most badass tea parties. Like, we were always like, she would never let anybody in the family, she's Italian. She's a family, like, she's the matriarch of our family.
Right.
And so she would never let anybody leave the house without a full stomach and a cookie. She had all these different cookie jars and you could go and pick a cookie out of the cookie jar. So even if you were like just there to drop something off, she'd be like, oh, let me make you something. Like, that was just her love language. So, just Italian grandma.
Of course.
But anyways, so within the past 2 weeks, she had a really big turn for the worse in her health. And she has struggled with physical ailments throughout my entire life that I have known her. And so she's kind of flirted with death quite a few times. And we always joke that she's Iron Judy because she would always make it out of like everything, things that most people are not supposed to make it out of. She was totally a fighter type person. And so because of that, though, she had suffered many physical ailments throughout her life. And within the past 2 weeks, her health took a turn for the worse. And long story short, she was in the ICU, eventually moved to hospice. And then within the first 24 hours of being home in hospice, she did pass. And for me, I am in the stage of grief where I'm so happy for her because she's not suffering anymore, because she had so many physical ailments throughout her life. It gives me peace to know that she is free of that, because those are some things that really, weighed her down. And because after every physical ailment that she had, it wasn't necessarily that she would recover from it. She would just learn how to deal with it. It was just her new normal. Right. And so especially within the past year, her health has really declined. And I saw her in July. And I FaceTimed with her this week, and I had showed her wedding pictures because she wasn't able to make it because of her health. And the last thing that she talked to me about was that she wanted a strawberry milkshake. So it was just true grandma. Like I love that was our last conversation. That was about my wedding and that she wanted like a strawberry milkshake. But so I've been experiencing that, and you go through so many things. This is the first time that I have lost someone very, very close to me. And so I didn't know what to expect. And there has been times that I've been super angry. There's times that I have felt like I can't breathe because the reality hits, or there's times where I just want to cry, and times that I feel nothing. Like it's so crazy what your body goes through, your body, not even just mentally, but your body goes through in response to trying to cope and understand how to deal with this grief and not make it your new normal, but figure out how to overcome it and move past it as well.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So I think that is a great segue to talk about. There are actually 7 stages of grief. So let's
they are very real.
they are. And I want to make them personalized to your experience. And then also to my semi-recent, struggle with grief as well. So the first stage is shock and denial. And let me tell my story, and then let's compare both of our journeys, because my experience, now obviously grief isn't just around death. Grief is
it's so many other things. Loss of relationship, loss of change of circumstances, or it's way more than just death.
Yes, absolutely. And my experience with grief is in the recent past, and I feel like I'm at the 7th stage right now. But but it took a long time, and I first started the grief process. So anyone that maybe is listening to this episode for the first time, go listen to the Seize the Day episode from where I essentially talk about my story and when my world kind of just, I hit a low. That's for me in my 37 years of life. I was actually 35, about to turn 36 at the time, but it was December of 2015, where essentially I had just had major surgery to my knee, and I'd been living with a highly functional alcoholic husband for 7 years. And 3 days after my knee surgery, when my nerve block is wearing off, my then at the time husband gets into a major fight with me because he was gone rounding on his patients very long time. I thought that he was having an affair. In a sense, he kind of was, but it was with alcohol. And he went and at the time when we got in the fight, on Christmas Eve, he was actually under the influence at that time, and I didn't realize it, but he went to a bar and drank more and was pulled over, arrested for his second DUI, and didn't come home Christmas Eve. And that was kind of a low point for me. He came home on Christmas Day, told me that he had been in jail all night, and at that moment in time, I decided that I was tired of living like this because I'd already gone through this once. And this was anyone that has lived with an alcoholic can relate with this story. And I've actually had so many people reach out to me because of the Seize the Day episode, because they can relate personally to that. And I've even had people that have reached out to me that are sober, that were in that role of what my ex-husband was, but are no longer. And like hearing the aspect from the other side was kind of a game changer. And so in the year of 2016, I essentially, I went through divorce. I went through healing from a major surgery in which I was on crutches for 2 months, building a new career because I had just decided to leave medicine and pursue health and fitness fully as my full-time job, and sell my big ass house in OKC that I had bought to essentially be the home that I wanted to be at with, my husband and my stepkids at the time. He had 4 children, and I had fully anticipated on them coming to live with us, and kind of had built my idea of what my life was going to be like around that house, around that time. And everything came crashing down, and it was definitely not in my plans. And that it led to one of the hardest years of my life, for sure. Yeah. My divorce was officially over or done 6 months after that happened. So I've officially been a divorced female for over a year now. I haven't really started dating yet because I go back and forth from thinking I'm ready to literally, I think I told you this already, being on a dating site for 12 hours and being like, oh, hell no.
You were on a dating site? You didn't tell me that.
Oh, man.
I think it depends on what dating site it was, though.
I went on a dating site that I had like friends that I trust their opinion tell me, and it was OkCupid. I'd never heard of it before, but so I got on it. It was a nighttime. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to start. Like, I was thinking in my mind, I could start building a profile before I make it public, but it doesn't work that way. So, so I woke up, and my assistant, because she basically has access to my emails. Yeah. She messaged me and she goes, so am I going to have to filter through all of these emails the rest of because I was starting
dating. That's
like,
awesome.
Oh, hell. So I got off of it. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh, so
That's
yeah.
Awesome.
So I was on a dating website for all of 12 hours, and I got scared off. I wasn't quite ready. And I don't still the idea of it scares me. But, I think that before you start dating after a huge life change like divorce, you have to go through these 7 stages of grief.
Totally.
Okay. So let's go through the 7 stages of grief and explain how we personally felt these, because they're so true. Like, reading them, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and yes. So the first stage is shock and denial.
Yes.
Now, how did you experience that?
So today is Friday, and she passed literally an hour after midnight Thursday morning. So it's been just over 24 hours for me. So because she has flirted with death so many times in her life, I felt like I was going to be prepared for it, because I had already felt like I had mourned the loss of her so many times, because we had really anticipated losing her so many other times.
Right.
And so I thought I was I was ready for it,
Right.
And especially because it was kind of a 2-week process where decisions were being made, and it was, will this be better or will this be better? And so it was just kind of 2 weeks drawn out of her being in intensive care, and will we re-intubate? Is there a DNR? Like, all these different, things. And so I feel like I went through the 7 stages of grief during these 2 weeks before she even passed. And now it's like starting all over again, because now it actually is real. So I had talked to my cousin Thursday night around probably 11, and she had just left my grandma's house. So like I said, hospice care took her home Thursday. I really think that she just waited until she was home, you know?
Yeah.
So Thursday night, my cousin had gone and saw her, and she said that there was significantly a change in what she had seen her earlier that day. Earlier in the day, my grandma was serving full sass. Like, I am definitely my grandmother's granddaughter. Like, she's super sassy, spunky, like, tell you like it is. And so, but she was unresponsive, but she was still breathing. Yeah. So it was almost like a deep sleep for her at that point. And so, my cousin had told me, she was like, cause I live in Texas and my family lives in Utah. So I haven't been able to be there for any of this, Right. So she told me, the nurse had came and said that it would be as early as tonight or as late as Saturday.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was coming, and I had known that it was coming for this whole year just because of the patterns in her health. So I fell asleep for maybe about 20, 30 minutes, woke back up, fell back asleep. And then at about 1:30 my time, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it wasn't anything like there was no notifications that went off on my phone or no sound or anything. Like, I woke up, because intuition is just, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I checked my phone, and because my phone was on silent, I hadn't heard any notifications or anything, but 5 minutes before I had received a message that she had passed. And so, I remember just kind of sitting there and being like, okay, so now what? Because the whole 2 weeks had been like, she's going to go, but what are we going to do to make her comfortable and her quality of life as good as it can be until that point, And so it was really like caring for her and not anticipating the death, but caring for her until that point. You know what I'm saying? My focus had shifted. And so I really just was kind of like, okay. So I just kind of sat there for a while, and then, I don't think I cried right away, because I think I was in shock. I don't think I was in denial, because I knew it was going to happen.
Right.
But like I said, we always call her Iron Judy because she has always made it out of everything that she has experienced. And so the fact that this was the time that she didn't was a shock for me.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah. Well, my shock and denial stage came over a long period of time, because I was in denial about the fact that I was married to a highly functional alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And for me, the cycle continued happening every 6 to 8 weeks, where especially during football season. Growing up in Texas, I loved football.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband,
it's like a religion here.
It is. And my ex-husband was crazy football fanatic. He preferred NFL. He grew up in Denver, and so he was a huge Bronco fan. And literally, like, when preseason started up until Super Bowl, he was like on a different level of monster. Meaning, because football was his excuse to drink. And now they had Thursday night games in the NFL, and so so Thursday to Friday, then Saturday was college football, and then Sunday was, Sunday football, and then Monday night football. And then, every now and then he wouldn't drink on a Tuesday or Wednesday. But like, I literally became a hater of football season because of drinking.
Of your experience.
And, and I was in denial about it, because every time that we got into a fight, he would always agree that everything that I said was right. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your sleep. It's not good for your mental status. It's not good for your waistline. It's not good for, like, there's nothing.
Your relationship.
Relationship. Well, that's a given. I mean, it's and every time we would get into this fight, and he would, basically, you're right. And I can drink in moderation. I would always come back. No, you can't. I've seen it multiple times. Yeah, no, this time is different. And I was in denial. And so when literally, when something shocking happens, and granted, my shock is not near as bad as, someone that like witnesses someone dying, in a car wreck or whatever. But like the brain, there are certain physiological changes that happen when you're hit with something like that create shock. And when he came home that Christmas morning, I had so in my mind envisioned that he was with someone else. I was not expecting for him to say that he was with inmates. Yeah. And like literally my brain, it was like, slow motion, but it all happened so quickly because the shock of everything was just like, what? So that was my experience. That first stage of grief really started probably a few years on. If I'm honest with myself, it started in the last couple of years of my Hannah, my stepdaughter, who she'll always be my stepdaughter, even though I'm not married to her dad anymore. But I didn't want her to have to go through a divorce again. She'd been through divorce when she was 10. And so, I tried to make the best out of it, but I think that's probably when the grieving process started, with denial and stage 1. And then the ultimate shock of, wait, what?
Yeah.
Second DUI. So, okay. So second stage is pain and guilt. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, the pain, I felt more pain than guilt. I know I take that back. I think I did feel a little bit of guilt, because I felt like the drinking when I was married, I've never been a big drinker. I didn't drink in high school. In college, I drank, but I was, more times than not, I was the designated driver for when we would go to 6th Street in Austin on the weekends. Like I was usually the responsible one. Yeah. Because I knew I had a lot to lose, and I didn't, I've never been a huge partier. And it wasn't until I met my ex-husband that, drinking became a big part of my life. And I think I felt guilty looking back, that I should have not been that influence, but instead I felt like that was one of the things that we could bond on, which is so jacked.
He wanted his habits to be validated by you taking part of it.
Yeah.
And you weren't, it's not that you were at fault for wanting to do that for your partner. Yeah. It's so much more than just pain or guilt, it's a big web.
Yeah. So when he was, in those last few days of December and in January, when he's going to AA every single day, I definitely felt guilt of how did we get here, and how did, I let him get here. But at the end of the day, he's his own person, and you can't control anyone but yourself, So what was your experience with pain and guilt?
Well, of course you feel guilty about, I could have done things differently, or I should have done this differently, or I should have called more often, or I should have visited more often, or I should have sat down with her and written down all of her recipes, and, just things that every person, I feel like I could have been the best grandkid on the planet, and I still would have had things that I would have felt guilty about. But that was really hard for me to get there, because I have lived apart from her for quite a few years now. I think it was when I was 14 is when I moved away from where she lives, and I haven't lived there since.
Right.
I visit, and I usually visit at least once or twice a year, my family.
Right.
And in July, I had gone and visit, and I had talked with her in July, and she talked to me, the conversation that we had, she talked to me, it was like it was the last time that we were going to talk. And I think we both knew that, you know. And
female instinct is real.
Yeah. I just remember just the look in her eyes, the way she said things, the way that she looked. She was just being so intense with me. And I think that was her way of communicating so much, communicating her love for me, communicating that it's going to be okay when it happens. There was so much in that conversation that has helped me ease the guilt, knowing that, like I said, I could have done everything right and I still would have felt guilty, and I would still have pain, because it's a void. And of course, you blame yourself for whatever it is. You're going to blame yourself because you're hurting, and what you're doing is trying to sort out the cards and understand why it happened and what's going to happen now, Yep. And so I think that it makes sense why you feel guilty and why you feel pain when you are suffering from something,
Yep, for sure. So the third stage, I definitely can relate with anger and bargaining. Anger and bargaining. And I definitely, I didn't so much bargain, but I had a lot of anger and this is something that I'm not proud of, that, every time I talk about, there's shame that I'm still working to get over, but a lot of listeners don't realize, but I've been married twice, and the guilt and that I've experienced because I'm a 37-year-old female that's failed twice at marriage. And it sucks.
Yeah.
And then I get angry. I remember like at the moment because there was a part of me that thought, okay, I'm going to let him get sober and then we'll see. And then when I realized, one, I didn't miss him at all. I'd kind of already gone through stages of emotionally separating from him.
Yeah.
And then having the realization that I think that he already moved on. It made me angry that I'd wasted 7 years of my life with this man that if I would have known when I first met him what I knew, I would have never gotten into a relationship with him. And so the anger of like, of course it's my own fault. I mean, I'm a grown
self-blame. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. But the anger of man, why can you not be successful at this whole relationship thing? Hence the reason why I started learning about relationships. And if you guys haven't listened to that episode from a couple weeks ago, from the one that's titled Relationships, Yin and Yang, this is the whole reason that I really started delving into that area. Because the next relationship I have, it's not going to be a dysfunctional one. It's not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect relationship.
Right. But we're both still students of life.
Yes. Yeah. And
we don't claim to be experts of relationships, but definitely students of them, No.
And, for anyone that has the thought or even verbalizes, who are they to do an episode on relationships? Well, F you.
But the thing is, and like relationships aren't just a marriage, and maybe I'm a newlywed and you're a 2-time divorcee, but there are also other relationships in your life, relationships with your coworkers, relationships with your friends, anybody that you interact with, you're in a relationship with them. So it's not necessarily just marriage or not.
No, and we're students of life, and sometimes people have to learn lessons the hard way before they can really learn those lessons. And
we have always promised to share our journey with you guys, just like we are right now. Like,
absolutely.
There is no other place that I would be publicly talking about a death in my family that has happened in the past 24 hours if I didn't feel like it was something that somebody could relate to, because we're all experiencing different things in life, because I'm not here to talk about my grief to have people feel bad for me, because that's not my intent and that's not my message. Absolutely. So of course we don't have control over how people interpret our messages, but if you don't like our messages, then carry on. Yeah. Bless and release.
Yes.
God bless you.
Yes. Now, the fourth stage is a stage
wait, hold on.
Oh, no, go
ahead.
I
didn't do cover anger and bargaining for me.
Oh, so you're right.
And this was very, very real for me. This was very real for me. So it was, like I said, it took about 2 weeks of this process of knowing that she was going to pass. And last weekend, I stopped asking for updates. I told my cousin and my dad, I said, I don't want to know anything unless she has passed. And from somebody on the outside, that probably sounds so mean and removed. But I was at a really angry point, because I was angry because I couldn't be there. I was angry because I could only help make decisions so much. I was angry because my grandma was suffering and I felt like nobody was doing anything about it, even though clearly they were. She was in medical care. Right. But for you, especially being a control freak, you always think that you can do it better, and especially when it comes to your loved one, you always are going to think that you can do it better, and you're going to be angry. You're going to be angry about how it happens. You're going to be angry about the fact that you know better and you would do it better if you were there, whatever it is, and so probably for 3 days, I didn't answer any calls or any texts about her condition, because I was angry and I didn't want to be angry, because angry doesn't solve anything. No. But I also was so angry that I couldn't talk to anybody without taking it out on them. And that doesn't help either. No. And so I removed myself from the situation, because I knew at that point I couldn't handle it, because I was angry, and that's not going to add value to, because I'm here as a granddaughter, completely heartbroken. My dad is losing a mother. My grandpa is losing a wife. And that's even more intense than what I'm feeling, Yep. So I was very angry for about 3 days. It was probably Friday to Monday, almost 4 days then, that I asked for no updates. And then I was like, okay, I'm not angry anymore. How is she doing? But I had to And I had felt guilty about that. That was one of the things that I felt guilty about, was being angry. But I also know that I had to allow myself to be angry then, so that when I get on a flight tomorrow to go home to be with my family, I won't be angry. That won't be projected on other people, because I've dealt with it and I allowed myself to deal with it.
Yep.
So whatever stage you are in grief, whatever grieving process you are in, because it's not just limited to death and divorce. There are many experiences that people will go through in life that are going to require a grieving process.
Yes.
So just know that whatever stage you're in, there are stages for a reason. Like, you're going to be angry. You're going to be sad. You're going to feel like, you know what? Screw this situation. Like, you're going to feel so many different things, and none of it is wrong. And you have to know that and embrace that, because you have to allow yourself. You cannot bottle up your grieving process. You have to allow yourself to feel all the feels so that you can collect yourself, pick yourself back up, and continue moving forward.
Absolutely. And the 7 stages of grief happen in different time frames, because
it might not be in this order.
Yeah.
It may be different for you.
Well, and also over the time period, like, you know, I feel like my anger stage was a good 6 to 9 months, because I mean, I remember when I was freaking, like, I had my house in OKC was 5,000 square feet on 2 acres of land, and it was just me, and like getting it ready to sell. And then after I sold it, packing up, and like, you know, thank goodness I had my mom and a couple of friends help me. But like, I was so angry that I was left to do this all on my own. And it was just like, you know, it wasn't my fault that he had a problem with alcohol that ruined our marriage, but and it's okay to feel that anger, because that's part of that grieving stage.
Yeah, totally.
So the next stage is depression and the reflection and loneliness. And this is something that I 100% can relate with. And this is kind of the first time in my life that I've actually felt like true depression. And I didn't feel it until I moved to California and I kind of got settled in, because I was so busy I with everything else. For people that don't know, once I sold my house at the end of October of last year, I moved to this temporary place in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Shout out to Petey the donkey. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. It just sounds like a place where maybe 4 people live and they're all brothers and sisters.
Pretty much. It was, I'm so blessed to have had such great neighbors that live next to me in my house in Edmond. Shout out to Dr. Goff and Lil, his wife. They're just lovely people. And they had a place that they let me live in the middle of the country in Guthrie until I figured out where I was going to move and find a place. I had already known, I'd already decided that I was going to move to California, but I didn't know where, and I didn't know how long it was going to be. So I was temporarily living in this tiny farmhouse with Petey the donkey as my next door neighbor that kept getting into our yard and messing with my dogs. And long story short, it was a rough period, but I was so busy with other things that I was distracted from the actual feelings of depression. And so I got here to California, and that initial like, I'm looking out my window and I can see the ocean from my window, like beautiful weather and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, once the newness wears off, like I still don't take it for granted. Like every day when I'm out, I'm like, oh, I love it here. But that newness settles into actual real feelings. And this year was the first year that I really struggled with depression. And it's a weird feeling. Be
isolating.
Yeah, very, very. And it's especially hard for me because even though I'm an introvert, I have to be social for my business. My businesses require me to be social. And and I'm an outgoing introvert for anyone that wonders.
Same.
Yes. Because totally. I have no problem being the center of attention if that needs to be to help other people feel comfortable. Like if I'm in a group of people and everyone's awkward, like I have no problem. I can talk to a brick wall and make people feel comfortable. But I don't necessarily, I'm not the one that loves to be the center of attention. Like, if I am performing at a masterclass, obviously I'm the center of attention. That's why people are there. But like, I'm not the person that like every place I go, I want to be the center of attention. Like I would prefer not to be, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm very comfortable being by myself. But coming to a place where I essentially knew no one here. I knew like a couple of people, but it was just me and my dogs. And this year was the first time really in my life that I think I felt real depression. And that has been the stage that I feel like I was stuck at for a while. But to know that that's a normal part of this process, instead of feeling guilty about it and feeling down about it and what's wrong with me, like knowing that, okay, this is part of that healing process. And knowing that has helped. And some days are harder than others. I definitely feel like I've gotten past that, but it's only in the recent past. It's and it's kind of cool because I've got such amazing fans that follow me, and the ones that follow me close know like when I'm not, because I don't air my grievances online. But they just know when something's going on. And I've had,
when you're flying under the radar, something's up.
Exactly.
I know,
because I don't. Exactly. I don't do fake very well.
Well, you and I are one and the same. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I can't apologize or bottle my emotions, apologize for them, or and so I retreat into myself until I got a lid on what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. So how did you deal with depression and reflection, loneliness?
I don't know if I have 100% felt it all the way yet. Like I feel like I still have a lot more of that to overcome, because I haven't, like right now I'm like in the working out the details stage. Like we're putting together the funeral and I need to fly in at this day and this person's going to pick me up and I'm going to stay with this. But like right now it's just like busy, like you said, details and stuff. And I haven't been with my family yet.
Right.
So I haven't seen anybody in my family yet. And so I don't know really what the next week at home is going to be like. But yesterday, so my husband, it's still weird to say that he's my husband, but my husband is gone for about 15 hours a day between school and work. And so I was by myself all day yesterday. And even though I work from home and I'm interacting with people via my phone and my computer all day, I felt so isolated. I felt so alone. I felt so broken. I was in a part of the broken stage. You feel like you can't breathe, like you're panicking kind of thing, and I could not stop crying. I even texted Lauren and was like, can I please just do audio? I don't want to be on video. My eyes are so swollen and like everybody's going to see it. Like cause I just was not. And like, that's the thing, is I was trying to distract myself with like, I was like, you have to pull yourself together because this is a message that you need to share with people. Or, like I experienced a lot of different things within 24 hours yesterday because like I said, the anticipation was now gone. And now it was really like
reality. She
really isn't here anymore. This time she didn't make it out. And yesterday was it was the worst day. It was so like I had just... And it was something that, honestly, I needed to go through that by myself. I couldn't have Tanner here to hug and hold on to me. And I had even texted a friend and been like, do you have class tonight? Because I was going to ask her to come over because I just needed to not be alone. Yeah. But I had my dog, Phoebe. Shout out to Phoebe. She's a great support dog. Because that's what I needed. I didn't need somebody to talk to me and tell me it was going to be okay. I just needed to not be alone.
Yeah.
And I had even texted my mom and be like, what's your schedule like today? But I was literally grasping at anybody to just come be with me.
Yeah.
And the same time, I was like, I don't want to be with anybody because I didn't want to burden them or make them feel like they had to console me. Like I didn't need somebody to validate my feelings. I just needed to not be alone. Yeah. And so I just snuggled up with my dog for a while and just allowed myself to just think about things and details about her house or details about her face or things that you don't reflect on until You have to.
Yeah.
There are things that you like. She always wore blue eyeliner. And I didn't know that. I didn't realize that until yesterday. Like, I don't know what, like things that stuck out. And so for me, like the parts of depression was going into the deepest, darkest parts of having to look at her face in my mind and think about those details. That was really, really hard. But at the same time, like that depression and that despair and the loneliness and just the sinking feeling in your stomach, like those are all things that will subside. They will go away. Please know that you don't have to stay there. Feel those things, but you don't have to stay there.
No.
Know that you can move forward from that. It's okay to feel those things, but don't stay there. Don't dwell too long. Don't allow it to consume you. Because I think that that's something that happens for a lot of people in a grieving process is they get to the depression stage and they never get over it. I remember there was somebody that I worked with that had lost a son, and she had lost her son 4 years before I started working with her, and it was still something that completely consumed her life. And I definitely think that we need to still commemorate our loved ones and still carry them with us. But the grieving process at some time has to conclude. You don't forget, you just learn how to love them from a distance, And so I just ask, like I said, whatever grieving process you're in, just don't stay there. Don't stay in the depression stage because it can consume you and you can become a slave to that. Yes, grief can be life altering depending on how you deal with it. And if you don't have a support system or if you're going through this alone, yesterday was the hardest day. Just going through all of that for me. And so, like I said, I felt that and thought about there are people that feel this way months after, years after, days after an event that makes them grieve. And you have to allow yourself to feel it, but you can't stay there. You have to move forward from that.
Yep.
And that goes into number 5.
The upward turn is stage 5. And for me, I was thinking, what was my upward turn? And I think my upward turn was that dream that I had.
And that was recently.
Yeah.
Which shows that grieving isn't 7 days of grief and then you move on. It's a process. And it's going to take time.
It is. It was a good year and a half after everything went down where I started to go into that upward turn. And that for people that didn't listen to the episode of relationships, yin and yang, I talked about the dream that I had where I was in like a Jeep, like car with a man I knew in my dream that I trusted. And we came across basically 2 paths. One was to go 9 hours to get to our destination, or we could cross this really dangerous bridge over this cavern and get to our destination and save 9 hours. And in the dream, I essentially decided to trust this man that I was with and closed my eyes. We went over the cavern backwards. I don't know what the significance of backwards is, but the feeling of elation when I got to the other side of the cavern in the dream was so real. I woke up and it was just palpable. And I was talking with one of my friends who she essentially, helped interpret the dream of you're ready to start trusting a man. And I feel like that was kind of okay, like my upward turn, because it's not like that was the first time I'd ever thought about dating, but it was like, okay, I think my heart is ready because, my heart has had to do a lot of healing and growing. So, So what's your upward turn?
Right now, currently, because like I said, I don't think I'm done with this process.
No.
Because it's so fresh. It's so fresh. But for me right now, the upward turn is knowing that she's not suffering because her body has failed her so many times in her life. And due to some of the decisions that she made, clearly, but her body failed her so many times in her lifetime. And knowing that she is free of that failing body is it makes me so happy for her because she is just such a spunky spitfire person. And like the body that she was in and the ailments that she was suffering did not match who she is, And so knowing that she is separate from that, that's cool. Like that makes me excited for her.
And I have a feeling she's watching it right now, dancing a little jig, saying, "You know it, girl. I am happy." That's what I have a feeling.
I posted this adorable picture of her. She's so spunky. smiling, and she didn't have her teeth in. And my aunt commented, and she was like, she would kill you to know that you shared a picture of her without her teeth, because my grandma, she would always lose her fake teeth, always. And we would always have to help her find them. And so she always like would be like, oh, let me put my teeth in, or don't wait, hold on, I need my teeth. And so she would have my head knowing that I posted a picture of her without her teeth. But it's because that's who she was. She was just spunky and funny and just such a goofy, light person. And her body really weighed that down, you know, in times of her life. And so knowing that she's free of that that's awesome.
That gives me chills. So the sixth stage is recognition and working through.
Reconstruction.
Yeah.
It's reconstruction and working through.
What did I say?
Recognition.
Oh, I'm apparently a dyslexic moment.
I think you're thinking about 4 vital behaviors.
Yeah. Yep. That too. I wrote reconstruction, but I said recognition. Yeah. Reconstruction.
Reconstruction and working through.
For me, the reconstruction is figuring out how to prepare myself for a relationship that's going to be healthy, and it's going to be based on good beginnings and to set me up so that I don't end up divorced 3 times. This next relationship, when I say I do, it's going to be for the rest of my life. And I went into my previous 2 relationships, really for not great reasons. And this time, you know, I've had to learn the hard way, but I'm preparing my mind and my heart so that I do it right this time. Better late than never, you know? So, and stage 7 is acceptance and hope. And definitely, I don't think I'm quite at acceptance because I still have that shame that I deal with of I'm 37 and I've been divorced twice. It's just, you know, I actually saw a therapist for the first time in my life, and I think therapists are awesome, and you should never feel shameful for going to them.
Everybody should see a therapist, no matter how great you think your life is. Everybody should.
I wish that I would have gone seen a therapist way before my, you know, second divorce. But she was like, Lauren, you can't be awesome at everything. And I'm like, okay, you're right.
And to tell somebody that is a red personality, that is so hard.
For sure. So,
because then you just want to be like, no, I am gonna be awesome at it, and I'm gonna show you. Like,
exactly.
Worst thing to do is tell a red person that they can't do something.
Yeah, for sure. So I am still working on that 7th stage of grieving, of acceptance, but I do have hope, and that. The hope is exciting because I know that the universe has my back, and God has a man who is going to love me the way he's supposed to love me, so I can love him the way he's supposed to be loved, and gonna do it right this time. And you know, I think I'd lost hope, but I'm definitely, I have hope, acceptance of everything. I'm almost completely there, but you know. Like we said, we're vulnerable with our audience, and I'm vulnerable right now. You know, it's something that I still struggle with.
Yeah. I think that the reconstruction for me will probably be being with my family and sitting around and sharing the stories about my crazy grandma and all the crazy stuff she did or made us do, or, you know, like, I think that that's really going to be a reconstruction for all of us, because our family was very, very close when I was a kid. Like, we did everything together. Every single Sunday, I was at my grandma's house every Sunday. Yeah. And so as adults, it's unfortunate, but you move on, you move to different places, you start your own families, things like that. And so we haven't had all of my cousin, all of my aunts and uncles all in one place in years. And so the reconstruction of our family that's occurring, that's a big deal. And that's what my grandma would have wanted, because she was totally the matriarch. We were always at her house for every holiday, every Sunday, you know? And so knowing that the best service that we can do to her is all just be together as a family and have a good time is, I think that's something that will allow all of us to work through it and to be able to reconstruct. And I think that it will also give us acceptance and hope, acceptance that, she had, in spite of the ailments that she had, she was an amazing grandma. She was an amazing mom.
Yeah.
She was the cornerstone of our family for sure.
Yeah.
And so I think accepting that is now kind of our role. That's something that we need to do now, you know? And I think that knowing that, like I said, that she's no longer suffering physically is something that gives, I hope, all of my family hope, you know, knowing that it's just onward and upwards for her, you know, which should be onward and upwards for us.
Absolutely. One of my friends, one of my closest friends that I've made since moving here, her father passed away a few months ago. And instead of having a traditional funeral, they had essentially a party to celebrate his life. And you walk in and you see like 4 or 5 different billboards of just picture after picture after picture, and just celebrating all of the good that happened in this man's life. And I loved it because it was, you know, of course they were sad, but it was reconstruction of the celebration of his life. And that is, you know, life is so precious. And I'm right now, one of my closest friends, she's like a little sister to me. She's younger than me. I'm 37. And, you know, like the idea of dealing with watching my mom pass at this stage of my life, just, it kills me. And my girl, her mom is going to pass away any moment now. And, you know, I've been watching her go through the last week, and, you know, them moving her mom to hospice and whatnot. It's grief is just, it's a reality that we all have to deal with. I think that having a support system to help you go through those 7 stages and love you in all of the stages, whether they be, you know, anger or depression or the final stage of acceptance, is so important. And having a community and loved ones, because, you know, not everyone is blessed with a loving family. You know, some people are blessed with a family that doesn't like each other and isn't supporting. And then other people don't have family. And, but to surround yourself by people that, you know, love and support you through the grieving stages. I definitely, when I moved out here, I definitely had a realization of who my true friends were versus who weren't, because you know, moving out here,
that's a grieving process too.
Oh,
you know, because and that's why I'm saying relationships aren't just marriage or not marriage. You know, when you invest in like if we've on our friendship episode, I talked about my best friend that I've had since 4th grade. If there were a fallout between us or something to happen where I wouldn't have her in my life anymore, like a fight or just I would grieve that. That would be such an intense feeling for me, you know? And so because your friends are your family, they are, you know, and you find comfort in them. You find home in the people that you surround yourself with, honestly, whether they're blood related or not. And so parting ways with anybody in any season of your life, you're going to grieve that. It's going to be hard for whatever circumstance, whether if they're going off to college and you're going here, or whether you're moving, or, you know, just the transition of people in and out of your life. It's a revolving door, and it's just as much opportunity leads just as much opposition and pain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to everyone listening, I want to leave on a message of hope, because, you know, we were not promised to have a life without suffering. We weren't promised to have a life that's fair, meaning I have more struggles than you or vice versa. But I challenge you to let those struggles define you into a stronger person instead of define you
have it be
as
a teachable moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I've seen a lot of people become the victim mentality the rest of their life because of the tragedy that has happened in their life. And, you know, of course, losing a grandparent is a little bit different than, you know, a parent that loses a child, or, but
totally.
But all of these.
But that's the thing, is everybody is going to experience different kind of griefs in your life. And it's not that one is more intense or worse or less important as the other, because your griefs are not mine and my griefs are not yours, you know? And so and please be kind, be sensitive to other people, because you have no idea what grief they are experiencing in their life. So if you think that if you have hurt at any point in your life, don't remember that in the pain, but remember the fact that kindness is really, really important. And especially because of the events that are going on currently, whether it's hurricanes or mass shootings or things like that, there is a lot of grief. And it's not that grief goes away, but it's plastered everywhere right now because it's something very big on people's minds.
Yep.
And it's easy that because mass amounts of people are going through the grieving process, there's a lot of division. People are using it as a way to point fingers to try to not be responsible for how they're feeling or how they're dealing with it. And so just please be kind. Just be sensitive to the fact that you have no idea what other people are going through, no matter how they carry themselves on the outside, and no matter what they say or how they deal with what they're going through. Just please keep kindness in mind.
Well, and you know that starts with loving yourself, because usually when people are unkind to other people, it's because they don't love themselves and they're not they haven't learned to actively love themselves. And so love yourself, love other people, and truly positivity always is the best option to go. So, all right. We appreciate everyone listening to this episode that hopefully gives you hope that whatever grief that you are going through right now, that there is hope. That 7th stage of grieving is real. And I challenge, if you're stuck at one of the stages, to really look at these 7 stages and ask yourself, how can I get to this next stage? Because I want to get through this grieving process so I can be a healthier, happier version of myself and be more ultimately Fitz and healthy. So let's leave them on our message.
Know that you are going to grieve at some time in your life due to whatever, and that's okay. But also know that you don't have to stay there. So because of that, you are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you.
Amen. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you on Fitz Friday Live every Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I love you, sister. Hey guys, one thing that I forgot to mention is if you haven't discovered us on Fitz Friday Live, make sure that you tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every now and then, there's an exception to the time, but we do it live. We answer questions, we talk about different topics, and we want to have interaction with you, the listener. So make sure that you tune in to the Club Fitz Fitness like page and the Club Fitz Fitness YouTube channel. See you there. Ciao. Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just at Club Fitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now, go live a Fitz and healthy life.